The Harlem Renaissance was the development of the Harlem neighborhood in New York City as a Black culture movement in the early 20th century, which embraced music, theater, arts, and more as a way to break the stereotypes that whites had put on African Americans. That being said, I decided to research the Savoy Ballroom, which was a jazz nightclub in the Harlem neighborhood. At the time, racial segregation was very strict, but the Savoy Ballroom enforced a non-discrimination policy, which led it to be one of the only places that allowed whites and African Americans to be together in a public place. This ballroom gave African Americans a place to express themselves through dancing and singing. One of the most famous dances that came out of this ballroom was the Lindy Hop, also known as the Jitterbug. Here's a video of what this looked like. The club also brought in other top musicians like Benny Goodman and Ella Fitzgerald, who performed at the Apollo Theater, which made the Savoy Ballroom have a bigger crowd. The club was built with a double bandstand so the music would be continuous, with one group playing while the other prepared their next number. This way, the music was continuous and kept the mood up with non-stop dancing. Although this club was very popular, there was definitely mixed opinions. The club was shut down in 1943 by public officials, but their license renewed a year later. The Savoy tradition of the Lindy Hop continues to thrive to this date thanks to films and other documented accounts. Since America was so segregated, it was huge that the ballroom was named the world's finest ballroom, when 85% of the dancers there were African American. This created an inspiration among African Americans in that era that helped them to express themselves by creating dances that are still talked about today. This was a step in the right direction during a segregated era that brought people of all races together. Here are some videos during this era of what this ballroom was like.
Whole city block on Lenox Avenue, between 140th and 141st Streets. Employed two bands at once, so that the music need never stop. And was so popular with dancers that its maple and mahogany floor had to be replaced every 3 years. Just 50 cents on weeknights, 75 cents on Sundays. The Savoy was called the home of happy feet and offered depression-ravaged Harlem a respite from its troubles.
The windows was wide open, and so the music can come out, blast right into our living room. Every night we heard this marvelous music. And in those days, in the summer, the fire escape was where you sat to be cool. There was no air conditioning, nowhere. So by sitting on a fire escape, and our fire escape faced the back windows of the Savoy Ballroom. And you ever see shadows when people dance past the windows? You can see figures dancing to that music. And my sister and I would respond to what we saw in the windows of the Savoy, and we would get into the living room and dance to some of the best bands in the world.